He takes a breath and he repeats, "I swear I'm a good man," in a very gentle manner. Um, and it says it again, obviously, that's what repeats mean. So this has real impact. It kind of, the way he delivers it, which is much more settled down, it kind of just sits on the skin of the music, like it's being held in place with surface tension, like a water boatman. And it really sits beautifully. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. My name is John, his name is Andy. Our love needs a transfusion. Let's shoot it full of wine. Fishing for a good time starts with throwing in your line. More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to, selected by Andy. Andy, what have you got in store for us today?
I would like you to check out a band called Foxing. Now, have you ever heard of the band Foxing before?
No, but I bet they're incredible.
I'll let you determine that. The
Come to
track
my
by
good friend, Mr. Roald Dahl.
yeah, the track by them that I would like you to listen to is called Rory. And it is a live on Audiotree performance. So they've, usually done really well. I'd say next to KEXP, Audiotree is right up there as far as,
Yeah.
content producers and sort of that music in a live studio setting. So, what were you going to say there, John? I saw a finger raised.
So, yeah. So, there was a lass that I went out with for a number of years, and obviously didn't work out. And if I was in any doubt as to, what could have been or whatever, I bumped into her about 10, 12 years after we split up. And it's very pleasant and everything because we're part on good terms on her.
Yeah.
And she says, "Oh, I've got a child now. I've got a young boy." I said, "Really? Yeah. Oh, what's he called?" And she said, "Rory." And if I ever needed confirmation that we weren't meant to be together, that was it.
Yeah.
I was like, what the? Anyway, so
So
yeah,
we
just
all
made me
know where
smile.
John stands on the name Rory at this point. So all of our Rorys out there that are listening, we're sorry.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got our Northern Irish golfer who's done very
Yeah.
well.
Yep.
The only other Roy that springs to Roy McGrath as well, I guess, who British comedian. But I once got given a vinyl album. This was in the mid 70s. I was a nipper, and it was a band called Animal Quackers, and they dressed up in full animal like suits and
Uh-huh.
played music. Um, And I don't remember much, but I do remember the theme song went Animal Crackers, Mungo, Rory, Twang and Boots. They were the names of the four
That was the,
characters.
the cast of
And I can still remember,
characters.
yeah. So Rory for Animal Crackers. I'm gonna have to look it up now. But yeah,
That's great.
one was like a blue sort of like lion or something, and I don't know.
Uh, that's interesting.
Anyway, enough of my Rory stories. We can keep going for a while longer, but no, no.
Yes.
I will go off and listen to this, and I'll come back and let you know what I think.
Sounds good.
That was nice. Okay, so we've got a nice start here. Atmospheric, definitely. So you have that. I don't know what it is. I presume it's one of the guitars. I'm very sort of short, short note with that, and it's just staying. So chiming away, single tick, tick, tick. And it's kind of that universal symbol for pensiveness, time passing as well. Probably while staring out of a rain-streaked window. It has that feeling. We have some real sort of nice but pensive piano chords as well, coming over the top, and just got a little bit of sort of I could hear his fingers on the strings there, Mr. Red Guitar. Really reverbed as well, so sounded really good. So the atmosphere is set. We're not going to get happy chirpy song, I don't think. It really feels like there's trouble at mill. Let's see what happens.
I wrote you a letter, asked your best friend to send it. Took to the sea before you could have read it. Retreated to snow-capped water of the unknown. Extracted my heart while it was still beating, but glowing.
Okay, just singers come in, obviously, and just to say, he's pretty intense. He radiates this sincerity as well, so I don't, it's hard to pick out the words because he's at 9.5 already, and this is just the first verse. So I think we're going to get some emo screamo here. But he has that sort of honesty, almost like zeal to his voice that he got with really early Block Party as well. Kelly has that same sort of, like, he really believes what he's saying or singing, which is great. I'm not sure this is particularly my favorite kind of vocal delivery, but we'll see how it goes. He says something about wrote a letter, remember those, and gave it to your best friend to send. There's something about the sea and snow capped, and yeah. So it always ends up fine when you give a letter to somebody else. Yeah.
And I swear this sweat would envelop your arms if you broke down and held it. I swear I'm a good man. I swear I'm a good man. So why don't you love me back? So instead of twisting words, you just sat there in silence and whimpered home, sighing breeze from a sunset. And all I could hear was the sound of the lost mess. My head made a hole for the hole of the insect. With my hand shaking, shut the mention of having reasons I will only be friends. I swear I'm a good man. I swear I'm a good man. So why don't you love me back?
Okay, I'm not getting a lot of the lyrics, but I got this, I swear I'm a good man a couple of times, and so why don't you love me back a couple of times as well, and it's just repeating it here. It's an interesting gambit. I have to take it at face value, but usually someone who's forced to say, I swear I'm a good man, they ain't usually that good. And you make you wonder what has happened that has forced him to reaffirm his virtue. Yeah, and then it sort of progressed with that lovely guitar sort of twisting it into that second sort of section with the drums kicking as well. And it's a strange sort of beat. It feels almost like a sort of slow traveling beat. There's like a hint of military sort of march to it, but a real slow one, like the retreat from Moscow or something like that. But yeah, really nice to see. We see more of the musicians and the female cellist as well. Was a lovely sound. Yeah, really interesting stuff. When he sings that "Why Don't You Love Me Back," and to a certain extent there, so I'm a good man, he drops down his intensity level. There's almost like a tenderness to his voice there. I find that more effective, and it sort of sits on the music better. But then I guess they're all about sort of raising that intensity. So you feel it ramp up for the second section. It becomes more emotionally charged. There's hints of frustration and anger, whereas that first bit was more sort of like a pensive, almost pleading. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. I'm still confident everything's going to end up fine.
So don't you love me back? So why 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 don't you love me back?
Oh, right, that was interesting. So I'll be honest with you, the vocals did absolutely nothing for me. It just reminded me of a toddler tantrum, perhaps in a supermarket for maximum embarrassment. Um, it kind of feels like yeah, it feels like a kind of quite a juvenile way to express emotion. And it's fine, and it is what it is, but it ain't landing with me. That side, the music was really cool. I love the way it exploded into this sort of chaos and swirling. And it felt like it was circling. One of the guitars was almost doing like a siren, and the other one obviously was building. It's sort of tremulous, which again sort of conveyed the sort of frayed nerves. It was really nice. And the trumpet sounded great as well, actually. And it also meant he wasn't singing when he was playing it. And when the music all sort of like kicked down, so it's just the drum and the trumpet, you get these sort of shades of the last post, and the sort of somber note that comes with it, which was really nice. And the way it just finished with just the drums, and again, feels like they're sort of, you know, marching away in the slow sort of funeral march, or the retreat, as to say. It also reminded me a little bit of the way they sort of built stuff. Had that sort of intensity that some of Oh Brother songs have as well. But yeah, if I'm honest with you, the vocals were enough to make me not particularly want to reach for this again, although I really enjoyed the musical side of it. But it's such a strong flavor, his vocals and his attitude over it, that it is quite a thing to sort of like put to one side. I guess this is like, my version of Andy hearing Morrissey's voice. But yeah, it just doesn't do anything at all for me. Perhaps I've become less tolerant of screaming young people than I used to be. I don't know. But I've got plenty of music which I actually love where people like lose their shit. So I don't know. But this just did, yeah, I did enjoy that aspect of it. Music, really interesting, really good. Let's find out some more. Let's go back and chop it up with that day.
All right, John, you are back from some foxing and Rory. What say you?
Yeah, this song, it raises a few questions and it also provides me with a few conclusions.
Oh,
Um, just a quick summary before we go into the full autopsy. So first off, I'm sure you'll be able to delight me with the answer to this. I have no clue what the hell was that box that the singer was grasped in his mitts.
yeah.
My first instinct was that it was electronic battleships, perhaps, or some sort of educational box of mysteries provided by Texas Instruments. I don't know. So anyway, we'll find that out, I'm sure. Secondly, I did realize over the course, this is something that isn't a sudden revelation. It's probably that time has tempered both my tastes and my tolerances. While one of these has grown and widened, the other has reached saturation point. And it's a rare thing to consider, let alone realize these sort of meanderings and mental meanderings when casually listening to music. But being on this channel and doing this does make you consider the why and the what a lot more than just flicking onto the next track or whatever, which is one of the many reasons why I so enjoy and am grateful for this experience. So the track starts with a single chiming note over and over again. I wonder if it comes from classical music, but that sort of single chiming note, and I mean more sort of 20th century classical music, it has become shorthand for pensive thought and consideration, amalgamated with the passing of time, usually while staring out of a rain-streaked window. Yeah, so some beautiful atmospheric notes escape from one of the electric guitars, which has a tone sort of halfway between Knopfler and Cuda, both of which can elicit this wonderful atmosphere from like one single stretched note. And the piano comes in and it's knocking out some chords with a fistful of chagrin, as they say. We were also treated briefly to some finger noise, finger surface noise, heavily reverbed as Mr. Red Guitar girds his loins and prepares. The atmosphere is created. The scene is set. I'm not expecting yacht rock. And then comes your man with the vocals. Immediately from his delivery, we are in no doubt of his intensity, sincerity, and earnestness. His initial tone reminded me, in a way, of really early Kelly from Block Party. They both have this kind of honest zeal about what they're saying. Doesn't sound exactly like him, it's just the way it's sort of put forward. So he opens up, we have this classic scenario of writing a letter. What the hell is one of those? And giving it to the best friend to send. Has this literary protagonist never read any Jane Austen or Thomas Hardy or Shakespeare or Bronte or Ian McEwan or etc.? Never mind. I'm sure this will all end very well. It's just an opening line, it's always doomed from the start. So the singer at this point is already up to like 9.5 in terms of intensity, and we're not even out of the first verse. The music has done its job of drawing me in. It's really atmospheric and I really enjoy it. Only to find someone then coming out in all caps. I got something about the sea and snow-capped and his heart still beating. And then we're still sort of scaling the emo cliffs of insanity for a couple more lines before he takes a breath and he repeats, I swear I'm a good man, in a very gentle manner. And this, and it says again, obviously, that's what repeats mean. So this has real impact it kind of, the way he delivers it, which is much more settled down, it kind of just sits on the skin of the music, like it's being held in place with surface tension, like a water boatman, and
Mhm.
it really sits beautifully. Um, Now, I'm also figuring we're bound to, because of the way he's delivering it, we're bound to take this declaration at face value, because usually anyone who feels compelled to assert their inherent virtue are often lacking in said
Yeah,
virtue. And it
it's that
makes you
conundrum.
speculate on what the hell they have done that they have to then cover it up by warranting this recalibration of their morality. Um, So it was really interesting. But I think with him and the way he is to do it, he is just genuinely saying, rather than he's just run over, somebody's cat or something. He really is just saying, I'm a great. It's quite this sort of introspective nature. The next line, I believe, I know you did say it later on. So it's but so why do you love me back? And he's sung this one right in the upper reaches of his range with a real genuine touch of almost tenderness to it. Again, it's a really nice delivery. Um, Red Guitar Man picks up some accompanying notes. He's picking away with him as he repeats that line. And then he acts as a segue as the guitar sort of twists upon itself and segues into the next section. And the predominant sound now is more active from red guitar and the other guitar as well. The pounding of the drums as they enter. Well, the pounding is probably a strong word. The hitting of drums as they enter the track for the first time, which is interesting because I didn't think about the absence of the drums until they arrived, and I thought, hang on a minute, that's the first time I've heard them. Um, the other guitarist, who I believe there's actually, I think there's three, isn't there? But the
Mhm.
other guitarist, who I think was doing that single note motif, that's a tick tick tick. He's now ramping up his and doubling his efforts. The guy with the green guitar at the back, I'm not sure, but he's sort of filling the gaps. Um, the overall tone here conveyed has changed from the first section being one of almost a pensive pleading, and this seems to be ramping up a bit of frustration, a touch of anger as well. We also then, the camera sort of starts moving around the Audiotree studios, and we get glimpses of other personnel. The redhead cellist bowing away. Um, and I say at this point, I get the idea pop into my head that musically we're on the same sort of journey, not the same sounds, but the same sort of journey we would have with a number of Oh Brother songs.
Yeah, I was
Because of the
wondering
way
if
it
you were going to
builds.
see correlate. They have that same aura to them when they're in the throes of their music.
Um, but the difference being here is a vocal track, which is, and these vocals are such a strong flavour to this cocktail that it quickly sort of dispenses that notion in my head. It's there briefly and then gone.
Mhm.
So we get another. We go through that this section, then we get another double dose of "Swear I'm a Good Man," and then the gentle "Love Me Back" is also repeated. Now, obviously, our protagonist doesn't get an answer as he then throws a full high chair tantrum, proper middle of the supermarket, full embarrassment scream that only a toddler can produce. With a quick flick of feedback, it sort of does that sort of into this chaotic world where it is like he's thrashing around emotionally as well as physically. And we get some wonderfully singular and peculiar notes coming out of one of the guitars. I think it's the sort of like dark, it was like almost like a black or very, very dark purple guitar. That guy was playing up high.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it was him that's doing those. And it was those notes were almost mimicking the singer's hissy fit. And they started changing halfway through this maelstrom into a siren sounding two note, near, 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 which again adds to the atmosphere of this whole. So yeah, the music's building. It's almost like a pillar of turbulence. Um, and then if we're in any doubt that we're in trouble, we get a shot of the singer clutching a trumpet. And that seals it. So the drums are really knocking out this beat, which is almost this, climbing beat I put in my notes, but it also made me think of a very slow militaristic march. And I suddenly had the thought of the popped in my head, the retreat from Moscow, this sort of trudging backwards, defeated, which is, a great sort of motif. Um, yeah. As I say, one of the guitars sounds like sirens, and the vocalist repeats, "Why don't you love me back?" And then he enters the fray with the aforementioned brass instrument, and it's a lovely sound. And personally, it also means he can't sing, so I'm really enjoying that bit. So the other instruments, and it really does come to this lovely crescendo. And I had a little sort of, it's not quite the same, but those mixture of sounds is something like Squidward do as well, where they have this sort of cacophony going on, and then the sort of like a brass instrument coming through. Really, really nice. And then it all drops down, and you're left only with trumpet and the drums. So you get this militaristic vibe again, and the last post comes to mind. Now, obviously, in this country, it's used as a commemoration tune. And I was thinking perhaps this is the commemoration of a relationship that has died, and you do the last post over the top. Trumpet drops away, and the drums continue for a couple more bars. Again, feelings very somber, militaristic funeral feel to the end of the track. So yeah, I would say musically, I thought this was great. It was really imaginative and involving. Sadly, I just don't have the tolerance anymore for emo screaming tantrums. It kind of feels to me, and this is my perspective only, like quite a very juvenile way of conveying emotion, and that's fine. But it just didn't do anything for me in this one. And I was thought back, and I thought a couple of things. I thought there's probably lots of music which is in my arsenal
Oh yeah.
where someone probably screams like that. But it's like I said about the tolerance is a saturation point. You fill it up, and then you got no room for any more. And they thought, well, you like that, so why do you like this? And it's like, yeah, but, I've had enough. And I also thought that this is probably the equivalent for me of you listening to Morrissey's voice. That's the sort of where I'm at, without the personal baggage.
Yeah.
I don't know this kid,
Yeah.
I doubt he's said stupid things.
But
As much as saying,
even yeah, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to.
well,
Even when he was like in his more melodic phase with
yeah,
his
no,
voice.
yeah, no problem with that at all.
Okay.
It's
Just,
basically,
just when he screams, you have the me with Morrissey effect. Okay.
yeah, but even the opening bit, it was too much. It wasn't light and shade enough,
Yeah.
It was light for the first one, and then it was I guess the chorus because he repeated it.
Yeah, exactly.
It was delivered beautifully. I think if there was more of a mixture, because he starts at 9.5, and you got nowhere to go. If he was starting at 5 or 6, went up and then down again,
Yeah.
it would be more tolerable.
Which I think
That's
is
just my
again to bring up Oh Brother, you had a similar experience with that too, where Connor doesn't come out of the gate with that, but he gets there, and by the time we were halfway through that part, you're like, normally if the song started with this, I would have no trucks for this at all, but because this is where he took me, I am now here and I'm fine with that.
you buy into it over a
Yeah,
period
yeah.
of time, and I think that's what it was with me with this. Again, this is the kind of the emo screamo, whatever you want to call it, sort of, and I have no doubt that this will be hugely cathartic to some people listening, and they would absolutely love it. And I have no criticism of that. I'm just saying how it landed with me.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no worries.
So but yeah, overall, I thought. So I would say that because the vocals are so strong, it's not necessarily something I'd reach for again, but I really enjoyed the musical quality in particular of this. I thought it was really, really top stuff.
Not all of their stuff has him going to 11 either. So from a screaming standpoint, so I'll maybe be quick to identify another track by these guys that I think would be more catered to what your palette is at this point with music listening, especially because like you said, I know and that vault behind you and the one digitally on your computer is probably riddled with people who have taken it to 11. But like you said, and even though you said that you've reached your saturation level, the irony is you could go back to what filled that cup or saturated that cloth and happily listen to it again with no issue being taken. It's just you've got no room for new stuff that is cut from the same cloth. And
Yeah.
that's cool. You know, we all reach that point with an array of different subgenres or sounds or motifs and tropes in music. And you know, that's no, I have no qualm with that. It makes sense.
Sorry, the one that just popped into my head is someone like Black Francis. You know, he
Yeah.
screeches and screams with the best of them. But I'm totally bought into his weird and wonderful world. You know, so he can virtually do no wrong in my. But
Exactly.
there you go.
Exactly.
So that's we're full of we're full of these contrary contradictions. You know,
Yeah,
so
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let
uh,
me tell you. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. What are you
no, I
going
was
to
just laughing. Yeah, yeah, that's
say?
all.
All right. Let me tell you a bit more about Foxing. Foxing was an American indie rock band from St. Louis, Missouri, if the guitarist's Cardinals hat didn't give it away. The band has released 5 studio albums, a live album, and an EP, and 14 singles. Foxing began in 2011 following the end of the group Hunter Gatherer, a post rock band active from 2008 to 2010 that featured Josh Cole, John Helwig, and Matthew Piva. The initial lineup of the band shortly expanded to include Connor Murphy, who is the basis of the then active emo group Family Might, and formerly the vocus of indie post rock band Torchlight Red. It also included guitarist Ben Hellman of the melodic post punk band Eagle Scout. In late 2011, Hellman left the group and Jim Fitzpatrick of Falsetto Boy and Muscle Brain took his place. During their formation, the band had briefly considered naming themselves She Hums in Swarms before permanently settling on the name Foxing in October of 2011. In January of 2012, the band proceeded to record the Old Songs EP. Foxing's lineup changed again with the replacement of guitarist Piva and Fitzpatrick with Samuel Nauman of Torchlight Red in March of 2012 and Ricky Sampson of the emo stroke math rock band Badger Hunt in April. Nauman soon departed the band in May of 2012, and Thomas Peeney, who was the lead vocalist and guitarist of Family Might, filled his place. So we have a lot of this Manchester-esque, cross-pollinating of similar bands that probably all played together, kind of keeping this band alive by filling the turnover that was occurring. Go ahead.
A couple of questions spring to mind from that. One, do you have badges in America?
I don't know. I don't think we have Canada might. I know we have Wolverines. And I think even if we have Badgers, they're different than the sort of skunk colored UK Badger that we would see. What was it? The Wind in the Willows. There was a badger in that series. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is very English, as you probably know. But yeah, Wolverine is kind of like the face of what is it? Marmot? What is that? What is that family of mammals called? There's little
I
ground
think they're
dwellers.
weasel, aren't they? I think Wolverine comes from the same
Are
family as
okay,
Weasel.
okay. I thought weasels were part of the marmot family or whatever.
Well, yeah,
There's
same thing, other way
yeah,
around,
yeah.
yeah.
But yes,
Second
and
thing is foxing, I believe, obviously the verb to fox somebody, but also the coloration of books is called
yes,
foxing.
yep,
So
yep.
that's really interesting. I don't know if they took it for that, but yeah.
It
But,
is, yeah.
sorry.
If you can't tell already, this whole genre is mostly populated with nerds. It isn't being conveyed enough. Foxing released the previously recorded old songs in August of 2012. In February of 2013, Foxing released a split with Send Away Stranger on the St. Louis-based DIY label Caracage Records, and another split with Japanese Breakfast. The same month, Peeney left the group to be succeeded by Eric Hudson of Torchlight Red, Family Might, and Gym Shorts. In March 2013, Foxing embarked on their first tour through the Midwest, within which they were signed to Count Your Lucky Stars Records on the final night. Foxing released their debut album, The Albatross, in November of 2013 through Count Your Lucky Stars Records. And in 2014, they signed to Triple Crown Records, and Triple Crown released a remastered version of the album in May. In spring of 2014, alongside Adventures, Foxing supported the band Sea Haven on their spring tour. Also in 2014, Foxing embarked on a summer headlining tour alongside the Hotelier. In October 2014, Foxing supported Brand New on their fall headlining tour, which saw Foxing play in the largest venues of its career up to that point. Vocalist Connor Murphy credited Brand New lead singer Jesse Lacey for a pivotal motivational speech he gave to the band right before they were set to take the stage on the first tour date. Right when Jesse said that, something just clicked for us. From that moment on, it became the easiest thing in the world and the most fun thing that we could possibly do, Murphy said. This was immediately followed by a supporting stint opening for Modern Baseball on their fall headlining tour. In summer of 2015, they were part of a tour supporting a Philadelphia band, Me Without You. Also, in the summer, the Albatross was released in the UK. On August 3rd, it was announced that the band's second album, Dealer, would be released in the fall through Triple Crown. Dealer reached number 3 on the Billboard Vinyl Albums chart. And we've talked about the vinyl albums chart. It's the Muso's chart of choice. On July 3rd, 2015, the band's trailer was stolen, along with $30,000 worth of musical equipment after a show in Austin, Texas. Included in that was probably that soundboard that he was playing with, the specific name of which I don't know, but I know that there are different sounds and effects you can patch into the buttons and then deploy at any given.
Caught at one point that when he was pressing it, it was that piano chord sound was
Yeah,
coming from
exactly.
that.
He's probably got through digital upload, you can probably remove and replace however many buttons worth he has of different sounds that you can deploy at any given point throughout a song. I've
So I
seen
was
it
right.
before, but the name I don't know.
Speak and spell. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. The 21st century version of with a less robotic voice. In addition to the entirety of the band's equipment, the trailer also contained all of the band's merchandise, personal items, and equipment belonging to the tour's opening band, Lithuania. So the band was forced to cancel several shows, but still managed to play select dates using borrowed equipment. In March and April of 2016, the band went on a headline tour of the United States with support from Oh Brother. Immediately afterward, they embarked on their first headlining tour of the UK and Europe. On December 7th of 17, founding member and bass guitarist Josh Cole announced that he was leaving the band to pursue a career in filmmaking. 7 months later, Foxing announced their third studio album, Nearer, My God, which was released on August 10th, again through Triple Crown. On September 30th of 2020, guitarist Ricky Sampson announced that he was leaving the band. Following the release of the two singles, Speak with the Dead and Go Down Together on April 18th, 2021 and April 15th, 2021, respectively. On May 27th, 2021, Foxing announced their fourth album, Drawn Down the Moon, with the release of the single Where the Lightning Strikes Twice. On July 24th of 21, the band released their fourth single, If I Believed in Love, followed by the release of their title track on July 15th of 2021, and the album was released on August 6th of that year. On July 8th of 22, Foxing released their first live album, Live at the Grandel, exclusively on vinyl. 2 years later, Foxing announced their self-titled fifth studio album that would be released on September 13th of 2024. And after the last show on a U.S. tour with Coheed and Cambria and Taking Back Sunday, Foxing announced an indefinite hiatus on September 22nd of 2025. The hiatus officially started in December of that year after an initial announcement of 2 final shows was expanded to 4 in Chicago and their home city of St. Louis. This particular track, Rory, features on the band's debut album, The Albatross. Alternative Press rated the album 3.5 out of 5 stars, while it sits at a 4 out of 5 stars over at Sputnik Music. And punknews.org awarded the album, or the band's debut, a score of 4.5 out of 5. And in that 4.5 review, punknews.org, they offered the following. Foxing litter your ear with sentimental leaves and beautiful poetry via very realistic storytelling, diary-like. They're one of the most discerning and disarming indie acts going around, and this album is the main reason why. It's warm, light, and fluffy at all angles, something they've never understated. They capture the charm of the juvenile days through loopy choruses, twinkly guitars, spaced out, subdued, distant vocals, and with all these, let me just say, they scatter them like a band on the verge of tears. Adding of this song we listened to today, Rory stands out as the most inherently engaging track on offer. In fact, it's stunning. It's genuine, dramatic, yelpy, and a heartfelt confessional. And yes, it's all about unrequited love. Connor Murphy's delivery is pained and perpetuates best in the band's simplicity. A haunting set of keys, a horn laced plea, his blunt lyrics, distorted guitars, and one thumping percussion build the sad ebb and flow of desperation. It's strained yet roaring, and emotive to say the least. It's the track that had me using words like irresistible and on the cusp of greatness. But that's not all they do. You've got nice ambient spots of post rock and math rock that lend to Foxing's diverse tapestry. Confident, assured, experienced, but still rough around the edges. So, these lyrics. I wrote you a letter, asked your best friend to send it, but took to the sea before you could have read it. Retreated to snow-capped waters of the unknown. Extracted my heart while it was still beating, but glowing and red. And I swear that sweat would envelop your arms if you broke down and held it. I swear I'm a good man. I swear I'm a good man. So why don't you love me back? So why don't you love me back? Instead of twisting up words, you just sat there in silence in wind-burnt homes sighing rays from a sunset, and all I could hear was the sound of the wasp nest. My head made a home for the hum of the insects. My hands shake and shudder at the mention of half-written reasons why we'll only be friends. I swear I'm a good man. I swear I'm a good man. So why don't you love me back? So why don't you love me back? So why don't you love me back? And that repeats 3 more times. Ian Cohen over at Pitchfork reviewed this track in a retrospective piece and offered up the following. Most emo ain't easy listening, John, as you were quick to point out. And the St. Louis group is trying to provoke and prod the listener, pushing the genre and themselves to places both might not be ready to go just yet. Rory is at the dead center of the albatross, and it's the album's gripping standalone piece, as well as the point where the casual listener can finally find some footing. Connor Murphy sings erratically of extracting his heart while it was still beating over a tortured, horn-laced waltz, sitting in silence while his head buzzes like a beehive. As Rory lurches towards its devastating chorus, Murphy drops the metaphors for a nuclear desperation. I swear that I'm a good man, so why don't you love me back? It's probably about a breakup, or more likely unrequited love. But like the best songs of this stripe, it feels like the goddamn apocalypse. So, there you are, John. That's Foxing, and that's more emo. And yes, emo bands have a great way of making unrequited love sound like the end of the fucking world. So I think well, rare actual solid quote from Mr. Cohen over there at Pitchfork. But I have to agree with him on this one. So yeah, it's not for everybody, but god damn, the music is so good in this track. The way it just almost lurches. It's just whatever the step up from a lurch is, and it takes you by the hand along that pace, and it just sounds great. All the guitars, the minimalist approach to the drums, which actually make them stand out in this track. Yeah, it's good stuff. Vocals notwithstanding, obviously. So, John, thank you for giving it a spin and your honest assessment. I'm glad you really appreciated what was, I think, the shining star in this track, which is the music. Though I actually like Connor's voice in this track. I can understand how some would not. So I'm not going to hold that against you. It's your own, different horses for different courses, or is it courses for horses? I guess both apply. So thanks for giving it a go and letting me know how you feel about it, John. Guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of this track, Foxing, or I mean, pardon me, of the song Rory by the band Foxing. If there's other stuff by these guys that we should check out that maybe would be more up John's alley, little less abrasive in the vocal department, please feel free to give that a shout as well. Or really any other track or band you want us to check out, as long as one of us hasn't heard it before, it will make the list for a future Friday episode. And with all that out of the way, hopefully John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audiophiles. We'll see you later, guys.